Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Oh, hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball's group therapy. It is 11:15 on Wednesday, November 16th. For those of you who are listening on the recording, for those of you who are here live, the Dallas Mavericks just suffered perhaps, it sucks. We're only 13 games into the season, and we've had like 4 just terrorizing losses, the kind of loss that will hopefully look back at later on in the season and laugh. But I don't know. I was talking with our man Chris, who's already requested to chat last night, and I laughed because I had a feeling that this was a not good game. I am having a very hard time with this because my fandom is based off of a lot of 2000s Mavericks suffering. Wrong things happening at the wrong time, resulting in a lot of poor feelings. And frankly, I love watching the team, but there's also just a sense of existential dread that hangs over. You win the 2011 finals, that wipes some of that away, but that does not wipe away 2006, 2007, 2010, 2009, 2004, 2003, 2002, some of the really terrible things that we have experienced as Mavs fans. And when you watch this roster, and you watch the roster that Josh Bowe and I have yelled about for years, there is simply, it was such gross, unwatchable basketball put on by a team of players who are held up by Luka Doncic's greatness. Every single one of the players on that roster. Some of them might be NBA players, yes, but they have all been made to look a hell of a lot better because Luka exists. There's an odd subset of the fandom that exists to point out how, hey, when Luka's not on the floor, these things happen. Since 2018, when they drafted Luka and they drafted Jalen, every single external move, meaning draft and free agency, has sucked. I'm even going to put Reggie in that column tonight, even though I love Reggie Bullock. It sucks. It's a team that's bored. To lose to the worst NBA team in the league, which is the Houston Rockets. They are a YMCA team that found each other and just started playing basketball one day. In the fashion that they did, where they got blocked 37 times, is inexcusable. For Jason Kidd to watch a 15-0 run to close the first half is inexcusable. Hit an open shot, boys. Playing Facu Campazzo, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, Dwight Powell, and Frank Ntilikina at the same time is such an indictment on this entire team-building structure. I don't know where to go. Well, I've been ranting for 5 straight minutes. I suppose it's time for you guys to come up here and tell me how you feel about things, because maybe I'm wrong. The fact that the starting lineup group scored 27 points combined, none of them in double digits, is one of the most embarrassing things I've been a part of as a Mavericks fan. All right, you guys know the drill. Listen for your name, come up, give your take. Let's hop off and move on with this because I don't really want to be here too long, even though this is some therapy. Let's hang out for a minute. All right, coming up first is my man Ruben. How you doing, Ruben?
Doing all right. All right. You pretty much took every word out of my mouth, so I guess
That's okay. Say it again.
I'll be super
Say it again
quick.
so that the people understand. Because I take a lot of shit, Ruben. I'm serious. I take a lot of shit for being negative.
Hey,
I get fucking tired of this because Luka is the glue that holds everything together. So when I'm right about the small thing, or like when I'm right about the small things, he makes everything else look like it wasn't a problem. And it's just like when he doesn't play, like what? Like that was one of the worst Mavs games I've ever seen. My mom's gonna call me in the morning. She calls me after most Mavs games, and she's gonna like tell me like, Kirk, what was that?
it was a scrimmage. No, I'm just playing. But literally, Luka's just surrounded by role players. Literally, and Spence's, if he had his legs tonight, he maybe could have created more of his own shots, but even
Sure, he
was
looked tired.
gassed. He was super tired. But literally the only players we have on this team that can create their own shot, like, and not be fed, is, and not worry about them, is pretty much Luka and Spence. I'm taking THJ out of that because he kills
take
you.
A shot.
He'll take a shot and think he's getting in his bag, but no, he kills you, and it's detrimental to the team when he does it. But this game just shows you it's just a bunch of role players. Some role players are better than others, like C. Wood. He can kind of create it, but he has to get fed as well. And we kind of talked in the 77 spaces on Twitter and stuff, but this is literally nobody on this team can be a basketball player without Luka helping them, I guess. And I hope, J Kidd, Cuban, Nico take a long, hard look and see that we don't need an all-star big. We don't need another all-star role player. We need a guy who can come in here and be a star next to Luka and create his own highlight reels, slam dunk, hit threes, pass it even, but not any other type of overpaid role players.
So did you see today on social media, SJ, who I don't think is in here tonight, she posted this clip of Maxey from probably 3 years ago.
He was a skinny Maxey at that time. I saw that.
Yeah, he pump faked Joel Embiid and drove into the lane and dunked. And apparently that happened 3 times that game against 76ers from several years ago. And that was piggybacking off of a clip from Mavs Draft, who showed this play from last night's game against the Clippers, where Maxey pump faked and stepped in to what should have been an easy open shot or a drive to the rim. And instead he passed out to Tim Hardaway on the left wing. It was in the first quarter for a horrendous shot. And we're seeing elements of the Mavs, like the older Mavs players, because they are older, that at this point in the season, now that they could turn this around, but Maxey, Reggie, and to a certain extent Dorian look like pumpkins right now. And
you said early in the season, you cannot call the Mavericks a young team anymore. You hit it right on the head. As much as, like, I don't trust those 3 players to dribble, even though, back in the day, yeah, maybe they could. I mean, Dorian just is now learning to. I don't know if Reggie ever could that well. Sometimes he'll hit a little floater here and there, but these guys are like, we pay to keep role players far too long. I know we fall in love with our players, like as fans, as Dallas Maverick fans, as coaches here. Even Rick, fell to that, overpay. Oh, let's keep Powell. Let's keep giving him contracts after contracts after contracts. No, you show what these players can do. If another team wants them, get their picks or get a player that you actually can use and that fits you. Not keep paying. You can find a Maxey. You can find another Reggie. You can probably find another Dodo out here. But I'm not saying like, hey, trade all these guys away, but just know they have their limits and you know what you need to take the next step. Now, I'm not like we even say this during wins. I don't know what to take from this game. All I'm taking away is that we know what we need, and it's right here in black and white. We need a superstar. It doesn't even have to be a point guard. It just has to be somebody that can dribble, hit a three, or even dunk, but preferably all those three, and put them next to Luka and let them create. Spence, like I said, Spence is doing okay, but he has to be your number three. He's shown he cannot be, he's not your next superstar. But you add that with maybe a Seawood you can feed, but he can create a little bit, and we're off. We're printing money. But yeah, this would have been a good game for the young guys. I'm mad they couldn't play. Real sad
What is
for
that?
Hardy.
Why are they not there? It's on the schedule. This shit exists.
Yeah, like they couldn't plan. Like, I thought I saw Callie said like Hardy's not even playing for the Legends.
Yeah, they're in Mexico City, and they won, and that's nice. But we all know that's not comparable to NBA basketball.
Right.
15, like out of much, at least we could have drawn something.
The Hardy can dribble and create his own. He's young, but he's growing. I'd rather see them fail than vets look horrible. But that's all I had to say, man.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out.
No problem.
All right, coming up next is my man Chris. How we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm pretty. I don't even know if Mavs group therapy is even help. I'm surprised we're actually having a session tonight because that game was so bad that I don't think any kind of therapy is gonna fix this shit. Like this is.
Well, unlike the Mavericks, I fucking show up every night.
Same here. I painted through it. I saw the whole game, and it's just. I mean, we really are the worst team in the NBA without Luka. It's so depressing, and I'm watching the Knicks and Nuggets game right now. And man, I just miss Brunson. I mean, I just still can't believe. And fuck the New York Knicks. I swear to God, the whole Brunson thing, the whole Porzingis thing. We have Frank Ntilikina. What the hell was Phil Jackson thinking, even drafting that guy? Like he sucks. Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, our pain from the past is from the fucking Knicks, dude. Like. I don't know.
Our pain is from our owner and from the previous GM who were clearly not invested in modern basketball other than just willy-nilly shoot from the hip horse shit that existed for close to 10 years after Dirk won the title, where everybody convinced themselves that they knew what they were doing and they were the smart guys in the room.
Yeah, them blowing up that 2011 team was like one of the worst. It was just – they could have run that one back, and you just never know. But I mean, this whole God dang, man. So what? Okay, I'm gonna say hypothetically, what happens in the worst case scenario, right? This whole draft that we owe the Knicks. And I'm thinking worst case scenario, right? Let's say Luka gets injured. We are by far the worst team in the NBA without him. If that happens, like, is our pick protected? Like,
yeah, it's top 10 protected. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's the worst case scenario. I mean, that's not too bad that happened. Hopefully, Luka doesn't get injured, obviously. But
no, I know what you mean.
But trade wise, let's say this season they've got to do something. They're not
gonna though. There is no help coming. There is no help coming unless they want to sacrifice for a short-term thing. When Josh and I talked about taking our medicine, unfortunately, this is an element of it.
So basically, just get through this season and. Hopefully Luka goes nuclear like he did. We're just not going to get to the Western Conference Finals with this team.
I don't know if we're going to get in. Like, it's going to be this. This feels like a play-in team. It really does.
So it sucks that happens, and we just save up all these first-round future draft picks. I mean, we can kind of blow our load at once and get a superstar. But then I'm kind of worried that we get a player that doesn't mesh with Luka, quote unquote, and then unhappy, and then we lose all those draft picks for kind of like the whole Rondo thing. Then we give up like 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks and a few players for Rondo. I don't know if you remember the trade on that one. So
it's there's some darkness out there right now. My friend at Biased Slightly has a tweet about 20 minutes ago, and he said, "I have a horrible feeling the Mavs' next all-in move is going to involve a certain washed-up shooting guard on the Warriors." And God, if that just scares the shit out of me, because it's just the most early 2000s Mavs move, which that stuff was fun, but like Klay Thompson is so horribly injured, and it's just like
Yes, we always get damaged goods from like the Lakers, maybe,
because Chris, that's where it's like team building is extremely important, and the Mavericks do not value the draft. So if you do not value the draft and you're not good at free agency, what are you left with?
Yeah,
you are left with internal development.
We got Hardy, and he's down, and they could have called him up for this game. They knew they were going to rest Luka several days ago. Just call up one of them. Jesus Christ! Like, oh, you're having Facu Campazzo out there. Like, it's just this was a horrible game. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I'm disgusted, and I'm usually positive, as you know, about this. But this whole thing, there's going to be basically at the end of the season, we're going to say any bad team that we play, we lost to. It doesn't matter if it was at home or away. Like, that's going to affect us. We're not going to get home court advantage. So just the way, we're 13 games in. This looks horrible. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm pissed off at this team right now.
Well, thank you for hanging out. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. I see a couple of people in the chat that are saying, I'd like Klay. And I'm like, guys, I implore you to go watch Golden State Warrior game. He is not good. And it's unfortunate because he was unbelievable. Oh, hey, Josh is in the chat. Josh, you're supposed to be taking the night off.
I know. I've basically been taking the night off, but
firing off takes.
Yeah, I know, in the Slack. I think what's crazy about this game, I don't know what I'll listen to what you recorded with Matthew when that maybe later tonight. But like, what's so funny is like that Rockets team was one of the worst NBA teams I've watched.
They're atrocious.
Like, they're so bad, and that's what I couldn't get over.
He should be embarrassed.
I couldn't get over it. I mean, you look at what they did. They had 20 turnovers. Their starting lineup, their starting lineup alone had 17. Kevin Porter and Jalen Green, their two best perimeter players, had bad nights. They each scored 17 points, so they look like Hall of Famers compared to the Mavericks. But Green was 5 of 15, Porter was 6 of 14. They each had 5 turnovers. Eric Gordon, who's like the one NBA vet that can like do things, he was 3 of 9, 1 of 4. Their top 3 overall pick, Smith, was 3 of 10 from the floor, 10 points. He had a couple good defensive plays, but like they didn't play. Like, the Rockets played a horrible game for the most part. They had some decent defensive energy, with the 19 blocks, but like, I could feel it coming when this game was about to end. Everyone was like, schedule loss, no Luka.
No,
what are you going to do? And I was like, no, this team this is one of the worst teams I've seen in like the last 2 or 3. Like, this Rockets team feels kind of like the process Sixers before they drafted Okafor and Embiid. Like, they have no direction. They weren't running sets. Every single didn't they have like 4 out of like 6 possessions in the third quarter that they just didn't get a shot off? Like, the shot clock expired. Like, this team what they were playing against was a joke. I just couldn't believe it. It was it's one of the more mystifying losses I've seen them have. And again, the Rockets won by 9. Like, they won going away.
Convincingly.
Like, it's not like the Mavericks missed a shot at the buzzer or the Rockets threw in like a half-court prayer for the game winner. Like,
what's so obvious about this is that they do not have an offense.
Yeah. Wait, which team? Both?
The Rockets too, but the Mavericks also.
Yeah.
It's really just like glorified mismatch hunting and dreck. And so there's been kind of an ongoing like proxy war amongst Mavs social media. It's on Twitter, it's on Reddit, it's everywhere, where it's like, why is Reggie Bullock playing? Why isn't Josh Green playing? Guys, if this is the argument, then everything is already lost. Those 2 guys shouldn't be enough to make a difference, but they are indicative of the entire roster building problem. I love Reggie. I really think Reggie's going to turn around. That doesn't matter. That's not the point. If Reggie is this important, if Reggie is this important to the Mavericks winning, then they're in a much darker place than we want to admit.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, he was their workhorse in the playoffs last year. I mean, him and Finney Smith. I mean, they basically played 42 minutes a night for a month,
months, basically.
So yeah, I hope that's not having any repercussions on this season.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna how could it? They went out and got JaVale McGee, and we're like, you know what? We need to play big ball. I'm not convinced at all. Jason Kidd understands why they won. I'm just not. He wants to play a certain way. He wants to recreate the fucking bubble Lakers, which were a hoax of a basketball team that won primarily because Anthony Davis shot 40% from three, and Dwight Howard never gets called for a fucking foul. Fraud ass team.
Did you see I don't know if you talked about it yet, but did you see the Jason Kidd quote where he's like, "We actually got more shots without Luka. We just didn't make them." I was just
which goes to prove, Logan Thompson from Mavs Moneyball wrote a piece about pace, where it's like, oh, so pace is their friend.
Yeah, jeez. But so I don't want to keep it on too long. I want we talk all the time, so I don't want to take up too much of the time. But so the funny thing is, I just want to get this on the record because if it happens, it's going to be really funny. So their next 6 games are against Denver twice, Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee. Then they play Golden State and Detroit. And Golden State's in a bad place, but they're Golden State.
They're still Gold. Steph Curry exists.
Yeah, he just scored. I mean, they lost, but Steph just scored 50 tonight. They're still they're still dangerous, but. I have a feeling. I was talking with our mutual, I think Matt Sullivan, who sometimes is in this green room, but guy that one of our readers and listeners that we engage with online, good dude. He was like, I just have a feeling that they're gonna win most of these games, and he was like, I have a feeling they're gonna go at worst 4-2 because that's what this team is. They're the chaos team, right? They're probably gonna go 4-2 or better against these next 6 games. Then they're gonna lose to either Golden State or Detroit, and we're gonna go. And what's gonna happen is after those 6 games, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, the Mavs are fixed. Why were you freaking out about that start?" Yeah, they're fine. If you doubted this team, you're a hater. And then they're gonna lose to Detroit, and then we're all the pitchforks are gonna come out, and everyone's gonna go crazy and shit their pants again. I just have a gut feeling that's gonna happen. And who knows? They might get lucky again because I don't know if Jokic is going to be back.
Yeah.
For health and safety protocols by the time they play on Friday. So. The NBA is giving this team so many chances to
I mean that their record is high key, very they're 8-6 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for hanging out, Josh.
Yeah, that's it. You get to the good fans that I'm sure are much more pissed off than I am.
You watch this,
which is fine. People should be pissed off.
I thought you were going to go play Warzone and have some fun tonight. You're like, nope, I'm going to watch the Rockets.
I had to know. I'm going to go do that now and then go to bed.
All right, later, buddy. All right, Addison, welcome back. It's been a long time. How are you? Hit the unmute there.
Yeah, good, man. How you been?
I am. I've been better.
Yeah, no, fair enough, man. Yeah, look, this loss, I can't remember, I saw someone said it on Twitter that they're not too mad about this loss, second line of a back-to-back, and, we got a lot of open shots, didn't go down. But the thing I'm most annoyed about this team, and I'm keen to hear your opinion on this, is our role players can't do enough. There are guys like Bullock, there are guys like Finney Smith, even like Kleber. They just need to be able to do a little bit more for us to be good. We played the Clippers the other night. If Marcus Morris, he took, he had a little bit of a post game there. Some mid range. The reason Luka's usage rate is so high is because if it's not a stand and shoot 3-point shot, these guys can't do anything. And it's so frustrating the amount of times, even if they pass open an open shot and try to take a drive, they step out of bounds. They just don't know what to do with it. There's nothing that they can do apart from shoot an open 3. And if that's not falling, then there's nothing there on offense. There's absolutely nothing. It's crazy.
Well, if that's not an accurate, it's when these things work, they really work for the Mavericks. But when they don't, Josh Bowe, who's just on, just described this a little. He did this on Twitter earlier today, where he's essentially making the argument of when we're talking about playmakers, we don't necessarily mean point guards. We mean players who can do something other than their single skill, other than the single skill which makes them an NBA player. And the Mavericks just have one guy, and that's Dinwiddie. I mean, I know Josh Green makes an argument because he can dribble, but Josh Green, even Tim Hardaway, there's a little bit there. He can drive. Tim thinks he can do everything, and then Tim is a crisp 10 of 33 from the floor the past 2 games. So it was a bit rough, but to be fair, I would rather have him who actually at least feels like he can do stuff rather than Bullock, who just goes 0 of 3 and just won't shoot and won't even do anything. That's right. We need people out there who are threats to score, and these guys just aren't providing it. It's a front office problem, I think. As we're currently constructed, it's just so hard to expect. Free agency is always a lot harder than we make it out to be, because there's really one of these things that players kind of have it in their heads where they're going to go even before, probably before the season even ends, because those kind of discussions happen. But the Mavericks just have had such a narrow build for what they want out of a team. And that's why, the Reggie Bullock signing, we're all pretty excited about that. It's Reggie. It's a guy. That's interesting. Because in 2019, we had watched them take KP out to dinner and then effectively do nothing. And then 2020 wasn't really that much better. They traded for Josh Richardson, who is such a single-use player. I don't know what to do with him. It's tough where I know Luka's going to dominate the ball, but you get to the NBA level, you got to have guys that are willing to put the ball on the floor and do stuff. It's so true. Exactly. It's so frustrating. It is. And I've had a change of heart recently. With our picks and stuff, we're obviously, there's some talk about not wanting to trade, picks in the hopes that next offseason or whatever we can trade for another star. I'm kind of just at the point where I don't know whether another superstar is the answer. I would rather have capable role play. I would rather go the 2011 route, having, Miles Turner, some other capable wing players. I feel like it's a more reliable way to build than throw out 2 or 3, 4 firsts in the hopes that a star works out. I don't know what your opinion is on this, but it's been my thinking recently is I don't know whether throwing all our eggs into one basket again, kind of like what we did for KP, is the answer. I would just rather get some form of a capable roster that Luka actually has a chance to carry. Yeah. I don't really have any good solutions or ideas because they try new things. They bring in JaVale. I mean, and JaVale, that's been the big answer for the last. Oh man, it's so disappointing. Well, I mean, it's wild. So if we're gonna do this, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. What are you doing bringing in a GM that has precisely no front office experience? Maybe it'll work out one day. Sure as hell ain't. I don't know. Yeah, just me. Yeah, I mean, at least for the playoffs, I think it's a good sign that we're beating the better teams. We always seem to step up to the better teams and step down to the worst teams. So at least I think that's the one bright spot we have for when we eventually get the 6th seed, 7th seed in the playoffs, because we can't beat the crappy teams. Anyway, that's all I had. You have a good rest of your night, man. All right, thanks for hanging out. Talk soon. Okay, later. Coming up next, then, we have Ishan. Good morning, Ishan. How are you? Give my man a second for his audio to kick in. Remember, if you switch out of the app, sometimes it doesn't let you, the audio thing doesn't connect. So I might have to invite you and bring you back up on here in a few minutes. Okay. Nope. Do not want to ban Ishan. Let's go with Krishna. How you doing? Give Krishna a second.
Kirk, how are you?
I'm okay. What's up?
You can't sigh big enough for how horrific, to put it mildly, this loss was.
Yeah.
I felt this way the entire season. I knew JaVale McGee was not really going to do anything. I thought maybe he'd be minimal. No, he's not. He's been absolutely horrific, like you predicted, and you're correct. Jason Kidd doesn't know what he's doing. He's never known what he's doing. I think the best thing he thinks he does is man management, and he's done that to a pretty piss poor way in any senses. I'm just done right now. Like this was my expectation. I saw this team and I saw what they did against so many teams this season, against so many bad teams, against so many teams that were missing players, and I expected very little. Because it's not that I think these players individually are bad. It's that you have collectively put players that are not going to work in the system that you think you want to run instead of running a system that I think is actually good for players. And yes, there has to be improvements on the roster. I 100% agree with that. But no way do the Mavs play in a manner that is conducive to winning at all. And there's this idea that, the Mavericks play so much freer than they did against Rick, which I think, yeah, Rick was strict at times, but we've also seen how playing so freely has completely bit them in the ass, where players now, in a sense, are way more afraid to do anything because they can do anything instead of giving something regimented to do. And it's Maxey is so emblematic of this, where now that he can do anything he wants to do, he doesn't try things. And Tim can do anything he wants to do, that he tries too many things. And it's come to this head point where now, since so many other players can try things, but then they don't, it all ends up on Luka. And you're seeing it in a coach who doesn't know what he thinks he wants to do on a team that has clearly collapsed over in LA. And he's trying to replicate that here when you have Luka, who's a very different player from anyone on that LA team, and you have players here who are not that. Why don't you look at the roster you have and actually understand what you can put together? Yes, are you going to be a top 1 to 3 seed in the West? No. But you can beat teams like Houston. You can beat teams like Orlando and Washington. You should be able to beat teams like that. You shouldn't be able to go and put up 92 points against the 32nd ranked defense in the league. That is actually pitiful. Like, Jason Kidd should not be sitting here saying, oh, we took more shots. It doesn't matter that you took more shots. You missed freaking 43s. Like, if you're shooting 50 half-court shots, it doesn't matter at that point. I could say, we took 50 half-court shots. We took a lot of shots. No. It's the quality of shots and who's taking them and how you get to those shots. And clearly, there is absolutely no regimen. Like, it's mind-boggling to me how not only we're not just making mistakes, we've completely swung the pendulum to make mistakes on the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. And I can't even put it on the players on some level. Because, yes, I am mad at Reggie that he's not looked great. I'm mad at Dorian, he's not looked great at times. And even Maxey. But on some level, when does it come back to the coaches? Like, at some level, when do you have to hold Jason Kidd accountable for not being able to put in a plan for this? At some level,
whenever it'll be a year too late.
Yeah, of course. And we've seen that for far too long. Things are happening way too late. And a lot of what's happening with this roster are the consequences of when I started becoming a Mavs fan. I started becoming a Mavs fan post 2011, 2012, because no one in my family watched sports, so I had to get into the Mavericks myself. And 13 to basically 16 and 17, before the Mavs started tanking, they tried and they put horrific rosters up. We had players like DeJuan Blair, Sam Dallenberg, Darren Williams, the end of his career. We had horrific players on this roster. And now, instead of having the picks, having the young talent, having missed out on legitimate talent, or actually trying to go for good talent, we have made mistakes on the few chances we've had and signed players who would be good on a roster with talent, but are now so relied upon that they cannot do and expand out of their role. We're expecting guys like Dorian and Maxey and Reggie to do more than they are. No, that is so unreasonable. I am telling you, you put Dorian, Maxey, or Reggie on Denver right now, Denver is easily the number 1 seed in the league right now. You put them on the Bucks. They are a much better team. It's not the players' fault on some level. It is so much so long-term management problems, coaching problems, and now it's all on the players. And yes, the players played horrific, but it is so many long-term issues that this team is not going to fix instantly. And unless they eat their shit right now and actually get stuff together, this is not going to get any better.
I just don't see where the help is coming from, because when
I don't either. I don't think it's coming. And
I was pitching a fit at this point last season because the Mavericks were also playing like ass. Only Luka was weighing 270 and couldn't move, and we were arguing in here with some of the people that are Luka Doncic super fans saying, "Oh, he's not fat." It's like, yeah, guys, he was fat. And then he got COVID and hurt his ankle, and then there was this sort of thing. So there was cause to look forward to something. And then what happened is the calendar rolled over. Luka started attacking the paint relentlessly, and they stopped trying to do the wonky offense that they were running. And all of a sudden, everything came together with Brunson playing well, Luka playing well. They sent KP away, and things came together at the right time. And I don't understand, and I'm just not seeing where the things come together right now, because Luka is playing at an MVP level, and that is all that's keeping them from being a bottom dweller team.
I agree. To be honest, I came into this season thinking maybe they get a first round win. I was not optimistic about this team at all, because outside of Luka, where are you getting really consistent play from? I like Spencer Dinwiddie. He's been good this season, but I'm not expecting Spencer Dinwiddie to be so consistent this entire season. I obviously think Luka's a star, but outside of those two players, where are you getting the really consistent play from? Oh, wait, it's from the point guard you let go, who has one of the best turnover to assist ratios in the league. You let him go. You had no plan. It seems absolutely rudderless. This is not a situation where you could wait 2-3 years down the line. Unfortunately, Luka is so good, and maybe fortunately Luka is so good, that you need to fix something right now. And you know what? I would rather this team take a legitimate swing, but I know the reality is that this team will not have a chance to take a swing. And when they take a swing, it will be horrendous. It will absolutely be horrendous. And it's just so much incompetence from the top to the bottom that it's affecting players, and it's putting players in situations they should not ever be asked to. And it's what the Western Conference Finals does to you. It does to you as a team. Yeah. And I don't blame fans for wanting this excitement, having the expectation, because when you have an MVP level player, you expect competence. You expect some level of team building. And this team has made mistake after mistake after mistake. And unless you stop the mistakes, it's going to keep happening.
Well, the charitable read is that things haven't worked out. I try to always say it. I'm trying to say it more that way because I don't want to be a constant asshole. My gut instinct is to call these things mistakes, and I have a spreadsheet, a timeline that I could just go through and rip through some things if anyone would ever really want it. But I don't want to do that in the season. It's not fun.
It starts all the way in 2013. You draft Shane Larkin over frickin' Kelly Olynyk. Like, you draft guys who are not even in the league anymore multiple times over.
Sure.
Like it's not at that point, it's not luck. It is legitimate mistakes. It is an incapability to draft talent. And the only reason we ignore that on some level is because you get Dorian and Maxey. But minus Dorian and Maxey, where else have you got talent from? You look at where most of this talent on the roster has been acquired from, it's not been the primary reason they are acquired. Minus Reggie Bullock, most of the players on this team were not directly acquired because we wanted to acquire them. They are side pieces. They are players we just barely got by with. That is not how you build any roster. It's legitimately incompetent. You made a move so early on in Luka's career that it's hampered everything up to now, and the moves you've been making up to now have not adjusted to that. You've not made anything of that. Yes, you want role players, but you don't want an entire squad of role players. You want some level of tiering, unlike any other squad. You want a level of tiering where you have a superstar, have someone else capable on another level, then you have role players. Unfortunately, there's such a huge gap between your second best player and your best player that it's just when you don't have your best player, no one else can do anything, and I don't necessarily think it's just their fault. And part of that is on the coaching. and part of that is on the management, and a lot of that is on the long-term history and poor play and management of this entire franchise for a long, long time, where Luka and Dirk have kept this franchise seemingly good.
They paper over all the problems. And
exactly.
That's what superstars do. But one of the challenges that I've always had, and Mark Mark sort of called me out on this later, where he's like, you were not near as brutal with me as you probably wanted to be. Well, it was the first time I met him, so I didn't feel like being an asshole to a billionaire. Who knew? But when you're surrounded by generational talent, you're surrounded by people that really elevate what you do. It convinces you that you're the main, you're the genesis for the success.
I mean, he should have woken you up.
Did you not realize Luka, I don't know how long you followed me on Twitter. I decided 5 games into the Dennis Smith experience that he was not it, and was like, Luka. It's not hard. Some of this stuff is just not hard. Superstar stuff. It's look at Victor Wembanyama. He's going to be really good. It's like, what are we doing?
To me, I don't understand what your hesitancy to paying Jalen was. I don't want to gripe on that, but you really think you couldn't pay him and then trade him at all? At all? That's the level of ridiculousness I'm getting to. And, this franchise is lucky it's had Dirk and Luka back-to-back. Because you could be looking at a Cleveland Cavaliers situation post LeBron's first exit. And you know what? It could be way worse than that in the future, because the level of incompetence on this franchise as a whole, Dirk and Luka have not just papered over it. They have cemented over it. And now we're seeing the dead bodies rise up and stink up the place when those two are not here or when Luka is not playing. And it's going to get worse, unfortunately. It's only going to get worse until something happens. And I honestly don't know if that something will happen because someone makes a smart decision or someone is dumb. And, you were just saying, why hire a GM, who has no GMing experience? I agree with you on some level. But I also say, I feel bad for Nico because he probably came in because this organization was run absolutely poorly before he came in, and he was probably just came into hey, be a yes man. And I think that sucks for him, and I just wish there was change. And unfortunately, the problem is when people who have a lot of success are in these positions, they think that, like you said, they are the catalyst for all that success without realizing all the privilege and all the luck and all the mistakes that possibly could have happened and avoiding any of that, because they just look at the one time they had success and never look at the 9 times they failed.
Well, thanks for hanging out, buddy. I'm going to get to some more folks, all right?
Sorry, I needed to.
Right.
I hope everyone else has a good night. Sorry about that, guys.
Talk soon, buddy. No need. That's why this is therapy for a reason, where I want people to come up here and get their feelings out, because otherwise they go and talk to other people who don't care, and then we annoy the people in our lives. All right.
This is advertiser content brought to you by Frito-Lay.
Hello, I'm Chip Murphy, here to get you ready for the big tournament. Tonight we'll break down who will be cutting. Cut! What are you two doing?
Sorry, Chip. Prez here got his feathers ruffled when I told him Ruffles has 0 chance of winning the title.
And I was letting Dip know that she is not taking into account Ruffles' iconic ridges.
Guys, it's March. We have to start talking about the tournament.
We are. It is the 2023 Frito-Lay Snack It.
We're talking about big-time matchups between Cheetos, Smart Food, Lay's, Sun Chips, and more.
Just head to the Frito-Lay Snack Bracket and vote for your favorite chip, pretzel, or dip for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks.
This sounds great. Keep up the good work.
Just go to fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends 4/3/2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com.
Nav, what's up, my man? Hey. Welcome.
Hey, actually was at the game tonight.
Ooh, so how was the crowd? Any energy there, or was it as dead as it felt?
There was some energy. I was behind the Rockets bench, so there's more Rockets fans around me, a couple of obnoxious people. But the crowd seemed okay. It was the interesting thing. seeing the game in person, like, I don't know, it sounds like a cliche, but one thing I noticed was Christian Wood needs to be setting much better screens than he currently is.
Oh, man.
Like,
nobody on the Mavs except for Powell can set a screen.
Yeah, he's not at like Porzingis level bad, right? But he's still like, seeing it in person, it was kind of like, oh man, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're just kind of like standing there, kind of brushing up against him until you can go and try and get the ball. So that was a little annoying to see up front. Tim Hardaway Jr. was really like 26 shots to get 28
It's
points.
incredible watching his confidence with shitty shots.
It was terrible. It was worse being there for his. That was like probably the worst experience, was just watching him just jack up stuff all night. The other thing is you can tell, I could see like they're still having trouble getting their sets and running the offense. Like there's a couple times where, Dinwiddie was trying to orchestrate things and people were in the right place. And I could see the frustration in Dinwiddie's face, and he's like pointing and trying to correct people. And then he's just like, F it, I'm just going to jack a three because, these guys aren't running the actual stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to, see that up in person. Other thing, I don't know if anybody else touched on this. Houston had 7 players in double figures. We had 2, and both of those guys were off our bench.
Yep.
And one of them is Tim Hardaway Jr., who, like I said, it took him 26 shots to get 28 points. So that was a weird stat. The turnover stat this game was kind of like bonkers. Mavs only had 6 turnovers, and Houston had 23, and still, we still couldn't, get a win based on that. And one of the things, how you keep talking about, obviously, because you say it all the time, but your pet peeve is how Jason Kidd just seems to, keep putting his hands in his pockets on the sidelines and not really doing much. My biggest pet peeve with him is after every single loss, he seems to just be like, well, we just didn't make shots tonight. Our shots just didn't fall.
Right.
And I don't know, I get annoyed by that, because it's like, we're not talking about the quality of shots. We're not talking about who's taking the shots. We're not talking about how we're getting the shots. It's just annoying for him to try and brush off like shitty performances, just by saying, oh, our shots didn't fall. It's like, dude, we don't have anybody who can do anything outside. Yeah. Like, they built the roster where everything's designed around Luka. Luka's not there, and the roster can't perform, and everybody's like shocked. But overall, I wasn't really expecting a win. I got the tickets just because I knew they'd be cheap because Luka wasn't going to be there. So I was able to get a pretty good deal on them. But yeah, overall, like moving forward, the only thing is I know is I would actually like to see, and you might kill me for this, but I actually would like to see like 5 minutes to 10 minutes of Campazzo off the bench.
Nope.
So
did you see how far they blew off whenever he had an opportunity to shoot?
Yeah, he can't shoot. He can shoot as good as I can shoot.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. But I felt like how we always talk about Josh Green and Powell, how like they bring energy. Like he seems to be the only one of the few guys that like brings energy. Like he had a couple good steals.
Really good steals. Both of them were cool because they were like basically having to dance to get the steal.
Yeah, and I felt like he had a couple good defensive possessions. Like one of them led to that Frank 3. It was nice to see Frank actually make a shot. But I don't know. I just felt like I'm trying to, figure out with the roster currently as constructed, moving forward, what should we do? Because we all agree that the roster, we need help, right? But everyone agrees, well, it's not going to happen this year, right? So like trying to make the best of the current circumstances, I would like to see more Christian Wood and Luka minutes, despite all the like more bonehead stuff that Christian Wood is doing. I'm not as high on him as I was. I'm the one that I keep coming on here bitching about how they don't play him enough minutes. After seeing him in person, I was like, oh, I kind of get it. But at the same time, we don't have anybody else who can do anything. Like sure. He had one possession where it was like 2 seconds on the shot clock, turn around, fade away. It's like, yeah, I get it. He has all these problems, but like no one else can do that. And that, at a certain point, right? Like this basketball is about scoring more than the other team. We need people who can score. So I'd like to see more Christian Wood, Luka minutes, And then also, I'd like to see, we definitely need another guy who can dribble and orchestrate. And I think Campazzo, it's worth throwing 5 minutes out a night just to, 5 less minutes for Luka or Dinwiddie or something, just to bring like energy, like maybe not every game, but just every now and then. I felt like he showed enough tonight where I'd be like, okay, so like 5 minutes, I'd be like, okay, with it. 23, definitely not. He's getting exposed. But then also tonight, just being an indictment on the front office, like the fact that Jaden Hardy wasn't there, that really pissed me off. That's kind of like the thing that was most disappointing about, like, we didn't even get to see this guy that this front office drafted, how that guy's going to do, like what he's even capable of doing in an NBA floor right now. So that was annoying. But other than that, I thought pretty shitty win. Oh, sorry, shitty loss. Excuse me. Also, I was gonna say one thing I thought was hilarious was Bertans, 3 minutes, 3 fouls, 3 points.
I felt just the man just unconsciously shoots. It's so funny. He runs so hard. I love it. It's so funny watching him.
Yeah, defense was bad though. Like you could really tell, like he was sagging off.
Yeah,
just hoping they don't blow by. Yeah, like
he can't move laterally.
Yeah, but yeah. Other than that, on to the next. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, talk soon. Have a good one. All right, got a couple more people, and then I want to go to bed. Brett, how you doing?
Not good. I don't have much to say other than that, as I said earlier, that if the Mavs had any self-respect as a team, they would fire Jason Kidd now. I obviously know why that's not going to happen, but like, I think I've probably compared it to this situation before, but the way that, head coaches are handled in most soccer leagues is much differently than in most, American sports, where if you had like a result like this and like a string of results like this, like that coach would be gone, like because that's like the way that the culture of
right. What have you done for me lately? Yeah.
There's much less of an, but even from that perspective, like what have you done for me lately? There has been no point in his career when Jason Kidd has been a good coach. Like he was like he improved the Mavs defense last year through like the first half of the season before it kind of regressed. And I would argue that a lot of that is probably also just due to luck and lucky opponent 3-point shooting and the fact that like half the league had COVID in December.
That happened to Thibodeau up in New York too. And I think that's why he's gotten like a couple extra years, because they had 1 year where they led the league in like 3-point shooting defense. And there has been precisely to date, we don't really understand why 3-point shooting defense happens outside of luck.
Yeah, I mean, like especially if it's 3-point defense on wide open or semi-contested or whatever shots, like that variation is mostly just random,
right?
But again, the Mavs don't run an offense. Like they don't run many sets. They don't do that much out there beyond just like let some guys go one-on-one. Like I genuinely believe if you replace Kidd with like an average college coach, that they would play significantly better. Just like anybody who knows how to like draw up a play.
Yeah. Their out of timeout stuff is just shocking.
Yeah, I mean it is just like I don't know. Like I feel like do you have like a reference point in the league's past for like a coach that was like seemed to be this inept at like?
No, because I don't know how much of that I really want to lay at kids' feet, because I think Luka likes a read and react offense. But when you do something like that, particularly for certain guys, they can't play that way. As much as I do want to criticize elements of what I think Kidd has done, Spencer definitely wants to ISO guys. Like that's the thing he wants to do. Luka definitely, and frankly, the math supports it. Luka, like an ISO, Luka's one of the highest scorers in the league. We're not, his per 100 possessions, he's basically scoring 50 points per 100 possessions. The man's a machine.
I'm not saying that
him doing this sort of stuff supports it, but the rest of nobody else can. And so it makes the rest of the offense look terrible whenever they pull him out.
Well, but my feeling is largely that like it's not like they don't know how to play the style they play when Luka is in and ISOing. Like, they know how to do that.
Yeah.
That's not difficult. You could learn other schemes like that you could play at other times, or when Luka's not playing well, or when he's off the ball, or whatever. I mean, or even when he is, they could like occasionally cut to the basket or something. Like, there's like, it seems like just at least a 10% improvement in the offense would like in the structure.
Right.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, this is just an embarrassing loss. There was no point in during the game in which I felt like they would win. Like, obviously they got off, to a bad start, but I just had no confidence that they would be able to win, despite like Houston playing like just.
It stinks. Well, thanks for hanging out, Brett.
Thanks.
All right. Last but not least, we're going to give Sean a chance again because we'll see if the audio works. What's going on, dude?
What's up? Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes. So like I'm just right now in this really weird, like I'm feeling a sort of catatonia about the team. It's that we all saw this like coming. I guess we hoped this wouldn't be the case, but I think during the summer, like, at least I don't know about everybody, I kind of did resign myself that what we saw last year was literally us performing at the highest optimum level that our team and the way the roster is built physically can. Like that's genuinely the peak of each player on our team came during that playoff run, and we went to the Western Conference Finals. Great. Like, at least there's something for Luka to hang his hat on. But like, other than that, right now it's so depressing to just like today the Rockets didn't even play well. Like, they were good.
They're awful.
Like, this is one of those games where even if Luka played and was absolute garbage, we'd win just by virtue of how bad the other team was. This is like, if we lost because they got hot, as teams like this usually do, it's one thing. Like, it's a little more palatable. But there's literally no reason to lose this game. Why is Josh Green playing few minutes even then? It's because Jason Kidd went into the season misguided as hell on what Green can do, because he thought Green will be one of the ball handlers.
Well, you have to give so that part I don't hate, because like I want to see what Green can do.
No,
I still disagree with most of our friends that want him to play like 25, 30 minutes and do stuff, because he just doesn't have the scoring, shooting instinct to ever do some of this stuff. But I would have liked to have seen him do more stuff tonight running the offense. Like, he can handle the ball, but for a whole season, that's a big risk.
No, but what I'm saying is, even when he's getting the opportunity, the trust wanes. Like that trust, like, so confidently, yes, George Green, we will develop him into that role, but the opportunity should be there more. Especially because I understand, like, the only reason why Facu got the minutes he did was he was arguably the only creative player. I know Spence had 9 assists on the night, but truly, like, if you talk about how the offense was being run, only under Facu was there some actual creativity in the passing. So I understand why you would want then, like, to have Facu in that role over him. I just think develop Green as a wing if you have to. He can have good ball handling chops, but don't develop that as his primary skill. I think if you put him in the Reggie Bullock role and just, it's anyway a bad loss. Bullock is anyway not contributing anything. Fuck it, just let him play in that role, get Bullock out of the game and see what he does. He has been a little more willing to take shots this year. It might as well not fall. Like, that's okay, because anyway the shots weren't falling today. At that point, it's just like, you have to give the guy some run. If he can't fulfill the ball handling role you envision for him, try to put him in that 3-and-D role more often, because you can do that, especially in a game like this where you're short-handed, the team is ass, the other team is ass. Like, it just baffles me. Like, the Bullock thing, I don't, because yesterday he was hurt. You play him, and then you get a back-to-back, but you don't bench him. And then he's just playing bad, and you still don't bench him. Like, playing Bullock today was arguably like, there's literally, I don't think there was any justification for that. Like, what was he providing? When you saw him play, even before you saw him play, like, what was the expectation? We knew he was going into the game banged up. Like, give other players that opportunity. I'm really sad that the G League guys weren't there.
I mean,
I
think that's like the big rub on it, because if you go through kind of the box score and it's like, well, if you sit him, who's playing?
No, like, even if you don't
like
sit
Pinson,
him, it's more about
they played 10 guys tonight.
And
nobody
we had
left.
12 available. Yeah. Like, it's so, like, I'm not saying bench Bullock. I understand having him there. I'm just not understanding the insistence on having him play more than Josh in this game. Josh is younger. He played less last game. He's not carrying injury with him. Like, at that point, it's just a very fundamental coaching decision.
Yeah.
So, and you're like, we discussed this, like, you're right about, like, Kid had me fooled. Like, I genuinely thought Kid is going to be a great coach for us. But all the, like, there were holes last year, but that second half really made up for the holes. So you could, like, live with it. Now it's just that he's actively costing us games. If you look at all 6 losses we have, it's so easy to pinpoint what went wrong, and so much of the blame can just solely fall on Kid. Like, we shouldn't have blown leads against OKC and Phoenix. We shouldn't have been absolutely hopeless offensively against the Wizards and the Magic. The Pelicans game, again, like, they had nobody there. And, like, that's, I also do think Luka was just really mailing it in on defense that game, but still, that loss and now this loss, like, you could argue all the losses are inexcusable. And after a point, the accountability, I don't know, like, we can't keep blaming Reggie, Dorian, and, like, all these other players around the lineup, McGee, for things that they fundamentally cannot do. So at that point, who do you blame? Nico? We blame Nico. We know the roster's ass. We know Cuban had a role with it. It's just like all the bad decisions are just...
Well, they
like,
start to catch up with you. They just, mistakes pile up over time. I mean, this has been Josh and I's big corner since the start of 2019. I mean, I remember, like, I still have a show that we recorded. It's the free agency show from 2019. If it's not up on I'm pretty sure it's still up on the feed if you want to go listen to it, where Josh and I are, like, losing our minds going, what are the Mavericks doing? Because they were not prepared for whatever happened in free agency. And, like, these little mistakes, because like, and again, it's super late. I apologize, but I just think it's worth rehashing. They traded away Harrison Barnes and developed so they had Porzingis, they had Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber. And then, so they had those 3 guys. And so they start off free agency with a big chunk of cap space, the ultimate Mavs words. And so what they had the ability to do, because they had the bird rights for all those guys, is they had the ability to sign other players into that existing cap space and then go over the salary cap with the 3 Mavericks who would become Mavericks players that I eventually mentioned. They signed no one outside of Seth Curry, who ended up being a really good signing that year. But his contract was, like, remarkably good because they ended up, moving on from it fairly easily. But they essentially wasted the additional cap space. Now, why did they do that? I have 2 theories. The first was that they were not ready for free agency because they took Kristaps Porzingis out to dinner and all of the signings happened. It was like Donnie had no idea what was going on. The second thing, and this is the really ugly thing that I'm just going to put out into the void, they didn't want to go into the luxury tax because Mark Cuban, despite paying it a ton in the 2000s, hadn't paid it for years getting into that. Now, that's a financial decision that the Mavericks chose to make. But when you do that and then you pivot into 2020 where you have a very terrible draft, terrible draft. Like, you guys can like Josh Green all you want relative to the expectations of having a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks. It's a terrible draft.
Terrible draft.
And then from there, we are where we are.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to Tyler Bay? Where is he?
I think we basically moved on from.
I mean, yeah, and, like, for what? For nothing. Like, in the sense, like, the contribution that Tyler Bay has had on the Mavs. The thing is, we know, like, ever since, like, Luka's been drafted, it's like you said, just bad decision upon bad decision. The 2020 draft outside Desmond Bain, be it them hoping he'd fall to the second round and they can take him instead of Tyrell Terry, or taking him with the pick that became Green. Like, there are just mistakes at every corner you look. Yeah. I mean, like, but I think there's only two positive things that we can look at, which is moving off the Porzingis contract when we did and getting what we did for it. Like, I think Spencer is perfectly reasonable. I know today was horrible, but, like, otherwise you can't really complain for what Spencer has given the Mavs. Right now, he's basically our second best player, like, objectively. So you basically replace one guy for the other, and Spencer has been, again, very, like, we're lucky in that sense. Spencer has been available. He has the injury bug, we forget. So it's good that he's been available. I hope he stays available. It's just that one or two pieces of this roster get hurt, we're so fucked. We went, like, after December, when the roster was relatively healthy for the rest of the year, outside of Tim, we coped really well. And this year, I just do not have that confidence. And this is not just Luka. I feel like either Reggie or Dorian go out for a long time, we're, like, screwed on the wing. If Kleber goes out, we're screwed. He's out right now, and, like, if he's out for a long time, we'd be even more screwed. It's just that, and these are not, like, top of the line players that you should be so reliant on, which is the baffling part. It's the decision. It's one thing about making bad decisions, and it's another thing to actively not move on from them. And I don't know what's the sense of belief in the Mavericks camp, what gives them all of this confidence that Tim Hardaway Jr. will be our free agent. Like you said, Kristaps Porzingis is our free agent. Like, where do they get the gall? When you see how the league moves and you see how all other teams are bending over backwards trying to get whatever winning piece they can, this, like, really laissez-faire attitude about, like, what we do with the roster around our superstar, it's just laughable. And anyway, this season, I still don't think we should, like, bring out the drums and be like, fuck, it's over, we're ruined, the roster's bad. We know all of this. We knew all of this last year when the roster was worse. It's just that when you have, like, if Luka is this all-time great we're projecting him to be, he will take us to the playoffs, and we will most likely be in the playoffs comfortably. We've seen, like, that's what MVPs do. So it's like, it's time for him to show that he's truly that level of an MVP, because we know what he can do. But over 82 games, and I don't think he's fat. I think he needs to be a little bulky, like, to do what he does.
He's getting to the rim. So yeah, hey, man, I need to go to bed. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah. All right, guys. Oddly enough, Ishano, we're getting a little feedback there at the end. That was interesting. Okay, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll be back Friday night, because it's not like I do anything other than Mav stuff. Apologize for my audio is a little bit soft. I got to figure out this mic thing that Spotify sent me. I put it right in front of my mouth. I can't really do anything different, but I don't know. Maybe it's my fault. Like most things are. Okay, guys, be good. Talk soon. Go Mavs.